board
Okay,
for the Alpine Library, Kay Chaika.
okay.
Very
okay.
good.
All right, you have 3
I live in
minutes.
Sunny Glen, but I volunteer at the library. I'm on the board of the library, and I just want to tell City Council, thank you all for supporting the library. I'm new to Alpine. I've been here just a year. And I volunteer at the library, I volunteer at the museum at Big Bend. I love the city and I love that you support the library. And Rick did a wonderful job on all the expansion that we did, and I just can't wait to watch it grow and tell more people about it. And very happy to be in Alpine and here to tell you thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right. Other comments?
Next up, we have Maggie Bootman, unknown ward, discussing the Alpine Public Library contract.
Okay, you have 3 minutes. Council can't respond. Maggie, do you live within the city?
Yes, I do.
Okay, what? ward?
I don't know right now. It's Spanish Oaks off of Harrison. So,
Okay,
again, with the Alpine Fourth. Okay. So, just want to thank the city council for continued support of the library. I'm also on the board there. So, and I also work at Sol Ross at the library there. So, and thank Mr. Stevens for all the wonderful work he has done on the library. Such a great place to be here in Alpine and have such a great library. Thank you.
thank you very much. City Secretary?
Lastly, I do have an incomplete card. I'm not too sure what the name is. They're in Ward 1 and they would like to speak on the Alpine Public Library contract.
Oh.
Okay.
Okay. Just state your name
Don
or
Blumenauer,
3 minutes.
Ward 1. And I also want to thank the council for supporting the library. I'd really like to thank Rick Stevens for the terrific job he and his crew did, put that place together. We're getting there. It's almost done, very close. We're putting books on shelves. We still have a lot of books sitting around, and I hope probably in November, I'm gonna hope we can have a grand reopening. So thank you. It was great. And I want to mention that all of the money that came to put this thing together was raised through grants and donations. So not one tax dollar went into that. And I'm pretty proud of that. So anyway,
Thank you, so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, City Secretary?
That concludes public comments this evening.
Okay, so public comments are closed. We're moving into public hearings. With each public hearing, you can speak on whatever you're interested in. You'll once again have 3 minutes, come up, state your name and your ward. Once again, council cannot respond to you. So public time is 5:40 p.m. Public hearings begin. Public hearing A, to obtain citizen views and comments regarding the second final reading of ordinance 2024-10-01, an ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of 0.25 acres of city-owned property, being a 2-foot wide strip out of West Brown Avenue right of way, adjacent and parallel to the northwest line of Lot 8, Block 8, Hamilton addition to the city of Alpine, authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty to the applicant Lee Fing Nee, directing the funds from the sale of the city's interest be deposited in the general fund for the purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date, further authorize the city building inspector to issue a permanent variance to the city setback requirements regarding the property line to the West Brown Avenue right of way. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of this? Seeing none, moving on to B, public hearing to obtain special use permit 2024-10-04, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 904 West Fort Davis Avenue. The applicant is HITM Investment LLC. The property owners of record are Dustin and Janine Farahank. The parcel ID of the subject property is 34559. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this? Seeing none, moving to C, public hearing to obtain special use permit 2024-10-05, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 900 East Avenue J. The property owner of record is Andrew Daniels. The parcel ID of the subject property is 10900. Is there anyone here to speak on behalf of this? Seeing none, I close public hearings at 5:42 PM. And that brings us to public presentations. There are no presentations and recognitions. There are no proclamations. Community interest items. City Secretary, please put 1 minute on the timer for each. First up, mayor announcements. Reminder that early voting starts next Monday, 10/21, and it goes through November 1st. Election day is November 5th. Wednesday, 10/23, so not this Wednesday, but the next at 5:30, we're gonna have a special town hall city council meeting to go over the propositions that the city of Alpine has on the ballot. Also, Alpine Community Projects has contracted to bring Doug Griffiths to Alpine to give a talk about his book, The 13 Ways to Kill Your Community. This book is also available at Front Street Books, and it has a lot of great information. Doug will be here January 17th and 18th. And he will talk to us on Friday evening, the 17th, and then on Saturday, the 18th, we'll have organized conversations about tackling the concepts of the book as they apply to our region. Alpine Community Projects plans to have lots of fun gatherings for meals, drinks, and coffee as part of the weekend too. There will be an Alpine Community Projects meeting on Thursday, October 24th at 5:30, if you're interested in hearing more about this. Also, Boy Scout Troop 41 is in the midst of their holiday wreath sales. The new local hospitality industry training school is ready for students. That's the Mountain View Hospitality Academy, which is just outside of Fort Davis, and it will soon be starting its 6-week courses. Okay, and that concludes the mayor announcements. City manager. None? Okay, Councilmember Stevens.
So I have 3 items. One is a reminder everyone that Sulross Homecoming is this weekend coming up, so it's gonna be pretty busy in town. Second, for those of you who did not have the opportunity to attend the special presentation workshop on water, it was phenomenal. A lot of great information. And I presume Megan will post those charts that were used today on the website.
So yes, they're part of the packet.
Super good. Okay, so if you've had a chance, please take a look at that. And the last, and I'll bring it back to a future meeting. I get lots of questions about recycling, particularly from businesses. We've got great things going on at Healthlanders Recycling Center. But I think business owners are really struggling with how to recycle things. So I'll bring that back to a future city council.
And also the water workshop will be on the City of Alpine YouTube channel, so you can watch it there as well.
Thanks.
Okay,
All I got.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I don't have any.
Councilmember Nance, Councilmember Martinez, Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple quick things. Thanks for mentioning early voting starts this Monday at 203 North 7th. That's the only site at that county courthouse complex that you can early vote. Two, want to say I brought the 3 library folks. I want to thank all of y'all for considering, of course, their continued funding and thank Rick as well on behalf of the board for all of his work there too. And last night I went and saw a documentary at Sol Ross, Zawoski v. Texas. It follows a group of women that were denied healthcare despite major pregnancy health risks. I just want to note that this is definitely in our community as well. A lot of folks are having to drive to find reproductive health care, and I look forward to bringing a local organization to report some studies and reports on that at a future meeting too. But thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes public presentations. Moving into changes to posted agenda. Are there any items to be continued or withdrawn? Okay, are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Okay, are there any action items to be added to the consent agenda? Are there any time-sensitive items?
I have a question regarding our sign policy and noting that we might want to freeze that so we're not, every campaign in town isn't breaking the law the next 2 weeks.
Can you
I
add
know
that to the agenda? Yeah, okay, great.
Great.
Thank you. All right, moving on. to the consent agenda. City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight's consent agenda contains 8 items. Item 1, approval of October 1st, 2024 regular meeting minutes. Item 2 or B, approval of special use permit 2024-1004, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 904 West Fort Davis Avenue. The applicant is HITM Investment LLC. The property owners of record are Dustin and Jeannie Faranock. The parcel ID of the subject property is 34559. Item C is approval of special use permit 2024-10-05, a short-term rental special use permit allowing a short-term rental to be established at 900 East Avenue J. The property owner of record is Andrew Daniels. The parcel ID of the subject property is 10900. Item D is approval of fiscal year 2023 to 2024 fourth quarter investment report. Item E, approval of the Alpine Public Library funding contract for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. Item F is approval of the Family Crisis Center of the Big Bend funding contract for fiscal year 2024-2025. Item G is approval of the Children's Advocacy Center funding contract for fiscal year 2024 to 2025. And item H is approved payment of September 2024 monthly billing summary for Borges Law Firm Services.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as is.
I need a second.
I said,
Let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, the consent agenda was approved unanimously this evening. Moving on, consent agenda has been closed. The reports and presentations. Okay, presentations are limited to 6 minutes. City Secretary will have a timer, and when it rings, the presentation is over unless we decide to extend for a few more minutes for questions. All right, item A, City Secretary.
Thank you, Mayor. Item A is September 2024 Office of the City Secretary report, including legislative services, city council activities, boarding commissions activities, public information, current election information, and departmental statistics and updates. And I'll go ahead and add item B in there as well, if that's okay with you. It's the fourth quarter fiscal year 2023-2024 Office of the City Secretary report, including the same information. So essentially included in your packets is an overview of all the items that we've completed, that the council completed, board activity, public information requests, and just general transparency in government. We did, as you well know, I emailed you all that we do have an updated city ward map. It's on the website, it's being used, and the voters in those updated territories will be able to register after the next election. But other than that, it's just business as usual. Did you have any questions about the items in the report?
Thank you for everything that you do. Looking at your report, you do a lot.
Thank you so much.
So we appreciate it. Councilmember Stevens?
I echo the mayor's comment. Only question, Chair, was where are we on the ordinance updates? I'm still looking
You're
for.
waiting for me.
I'm waiting for you.
Perfect.
Very good, thank you.
Councilmember Stone? Councilmember Escobedo? No. Councilmember Martinez?
Thank you for your hard work, Jill. I saw you sent 689 letters.
Yes, we ended up the year strong.
Yes, we did. Councilmember Nance? Okay, thank you. Moving on to report presentation C, City Manager.
Tonight, we have an update from the Alpine Country Club. We have the president, Amy White, here. Included in the packet was a brief summary of their financials. Amy, will you be presenting or will Tony? Tony Molinar is also here. It will be a team effort.
All right, great. Good deal. Okay, come on up, guys. Just introduce yourself again in the microphone for the recording, and you have 6 minutes.
Okay. I'm Amy White, the president of the country club.
And Tony Molinar, board member.
We're just we just elected a full board in the last meeting, so we're back to having 7 board members, which is good for us. We just wanted to kind of give you a little overview of where we get the money to maintain the club. As you can see, revenue sources, it's our membership and our tournaments. It's where we make most of our money, the majority of our money. We had some big costs as far as equipment went this year. We bought a mower and we had $12,000, I believe is what I put in there for upkeep. So that took a big cut out of us. We're doing okay right now, but we're just kind of as far as getting workers and stuff like that, that's where we're kind of still trying to get more. So we've had a little bit of overtime, which is cut into our budget, and then our more expenses. And we just kind of wanted you to know what pretty much our membership and our tournaments are what keep our club going right now. So, and Tony can, Mr. Tony has been working with our grounds guys and I'm not gonna say.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, right now we're working on some future projects. Our tournament season's not over yet. I think we have one more. And after that, we are planning on doing some pipeline to separate different holes for irrigation for spots that are bare. Other than that, the dead trees have been removed and so forth like that. So everything looks nice now, but we're moving chemical spraying and so forth. And like I say, that takes a bite out of our budget also. But other than that, golf course is looking good. Ready for next year.
Right. All right, and we appreciate that. You have a number here that the community benefits include tournaments bringing in $48,469. So it's a significant impact to the community with hotels and we do appreciate that.
Well, that's what we took that in and we only keep about 10,000 afterwards. So, we want to get those people in here. Most of them are out here spending the night. We're promoting the restaurants to everybody. And, I think the majority of them stay unless it's Martha but a lot of them are spending the night here and we're trying to work with, keeping track of that a little bit better. How many people are coming in and spending the night and where are you going? But we've been working on that with our manager, Annie, like, how can we make it an easy system where we can generate that data? See during this tournament season, how many people are out of town? So.
Thank you. Councilmember Martinez,
No comment. Thank you for keeping you good job.
Thank you.
Councilmember Escobedo,
No problem.
Councilmember Nance.
I just wanted to say two things on the report I really like was the capital improvements, because that was required in y'all's lease agreement with the city, I think that we saw last. I think it'd be really cool if y'all could do a 2 to a 3 year capital improvement, because you said y'all are gonna be working on whole 2 this year. And that way the city, if there was any alignment in funding or opportunities for working together through grants or whatever, that we can kind of see what the vision is in a 1 to 3 year plan. Because we work on 1 year budgets and it just rolled over in October. And I like that you guys can actually really break a lot of this down from an accounting perspective on what was tournament based.
If you guys want something else, like what, we weren't really sure what to include. If you guys are looking for something, just let Miss Megan know and we're in touch. And if there's something you want to see, just let her know and shoot me an email. If there's something you'd rather see or want to see in this, just let us know. We're kind of just skimming off the top right now, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stone.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things. I want to thank y'all a lot for getting the trees done. I know it wasn't us, but when we brought that up last time, that it's done. So I really appreciate that response. I guess my main thing, and I just got 2 quick things, more statements than anything, is I hope that we can plant some new trees. And I hope we'll try to do some local trees. I don't know what y'all love, because you don't want a tree that does probably as the oak tree is going to make a lot more work than maybe a pine or something like that. But definitely looking at whether that's y'all water. So ponderosas and pinions would be beautiful out there, especially to note that those are the local pines that are up in the hills and mountains around here too. And 2, everybody is having trouble with hiring folks, and so I hope you'll consider trying to pay above the average and trying to attract really good workers to help out in that
Well,
way.
we are.
Yeah.
We're trying.
Fantastic.
We are. As
Yeah,
far as-
we're above average.
And we have we work very closely with our accountant and, every step that we take she's involved with things, but yeah, we try to pay above we do pay above what.
But the minimum is.
Yes,
of course.
definitely. We
Absolutely.
pay well above that, so.
Good deal. And thank y'all for all the work you do, and thanks for responding to the council too.
Like I said, if you have anything that you want to hear, just please let me know so that we can get it. And if you need it for our next presentation, just let us know.
Councilmember Stevens.
So just a couple of comments. I've not always been complimentary of what's going on out there. You guys doing a great job. I sincerely mean that. It's really clear and nice presentation that you gave today. I see it and it being part of Ward 5, I see it all the time. I see what's going on. So you guys have made a big difference. So thank you for doing that.
Appreciate it.
Next is, what can we do to help you?
As right now, I think we just need asphalt to work on the road, entering the country club. Other than that, everything's looking good. Everything's going dormant now.
Yep.
So we're mowing a lot less, so now we're gonna start our winter projects, our lines that we intend to put in for the irrigation of certain greens and side of fairways. But like I said, one of our main things is gonna be the entrance to the country club.
Okay, on the water lines, have you looked at our inventory of the pipe that we've got available?
I think we're just gonna go with the regular 2-inch. I don't know if y'all have regular 2-inch.
No, Megan?
I think we do.
Yeah,
That-
we tend not to use 2-inch. We use the bigger lines. Okay, so
Yeah.
you're gonna get 2-inch, okay?
Yeah, we're gonna go with 2-inch all the way down.
And is the affluent supply working okay?
As I hear, we're not getting as often as we need it, but like I was saying, it's winter's coming up, everything's going dormant, so we're gonna start regulating our watering, so. But it still would help if we could have the tank filled. It'd just make it that much easier for us to water like every third day or fourth day instead of every other day.
So you're familiar, we're updating the wastewater treatment plant. Clarifier number 2, that's a key driver for working affluent. And what's the schedule for that, Megan?
We have our pre-construction tomorrow at 1, and they have a start date of November 1st. And the contract is 365 days.
So by summertime, by the middle of summertime, we ought to be close to be able to work that for you.
And we've had some hiccups at the plant, which is why you're not getting,
Okay.
our automated bar stream was down, which wasn't filling out the
Yep.
material as fast.
Okay. Thank you.
Great,
Thanks,
thank
John.
you.
We
Thank you very
appreciate
much.
y'all's help.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next item for reports and presentations, item D, city manager.
The next item we have is Alpine Volunteer Fire Department, and we have an update from Chief James Etchison.
Come on up. Just state your name and the microphone for the recording.
Howdy,
Hi.
James Etchison, Fire Chief. Just give you a quick update of everything that's been going on. Wasn't very long ago since I was here, so. Last month, we only had 2 incidences. We had a brush fire, which was very small, was put out by the time we got there. It was outside, Old Marathon is actually a controlled burn that somebody freaked out and called 911. And then the other one was an appliance fire, a dryer caught fire in Sul Ross University in the dormitories. Since it was and is a state building, I had to work with the state fire marshals in order to turn in our report to finish their report. By the time we got there, the fire was out. The student actually put the fire out. So kudos to the one student that didn't walk by. September 26th, we installed our first set of fire alarms for the new SAFE Act, our initiative that we have, the smoke alarms for everyone. For the fire department, they're very appreciative. We installed 5 smoke alarms and they're good for 10 years. And then anybody that wants a smoke alarm, just give us a call. We'll come in, evaluate and install smoke alarms for you for absolutely free, no charge. And you have to worry about smoke alarms for 10 years. So it's even better. With all the little bit of extra time we had this month because of 2 calls, we upped our training. So we're doing training 2 days a week now. We're doing Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's for anybody that wants to catch up on training that they might have missed, or they'll come in and catch up on training that they might want to brush up more on. So we just figured if we just cram training down these guys' throats, they're gonna absorb it, and they are. These guys are learning quick and they're hungry and they want more and more training. What else we have? I stole somebody from another department. So we got 4 graduated firefighters, fully all the way firefighters, part of the fire department now. And then, like I said, last meeting, we're gonna send 5 more to the December class. And I wish I was in the December class, it would be a heck of a lot cooler. But the class went great. We are now going to take our SFFMA, which is State Firefighters Fire Marshals Association test. Doesn't mean that we don't become firefighters, just because it just helps us a little bit more with the SFFMA portion of our training. It's just an added to what we already have. It gives us more discounts and stuff like that on, say, bunker gear, equipment, apparatuses and stuff like that. Our resources, all vehicles are operational, except for engine 2, of course. We're waiting for that one to get the tank replaced. It's a polymer tank and it was cracked about 6 years ago. And trying to get anybody to come out and look at it has almost been deemed impossible, but we're working on it. We do have all of our vehicles, aside from that one, up and running. And we also have new tools added to our equipment list. We have 2 steel chainsaws, 1 new K94 saw, 1 battery operated mini K12. It's about this big. It's cute. And we have a bunch of extra blades and batteries to go with those as well. We also have 4 new tools called Gaguris. And they are a wildland tool, which is 6 tools in 1. So it's able to be used on brush fires to scrape away whatever we need and do whatever we need. It's a kind of a new tool. It's from Sweden. And Velfrest is the name of the company that's using it. And we got them for a discount, so just we can try them out here because we are big on brush fires. So that they let us use them for a discounted price. And if we break it, they'll replace the parts for free. It's got a lifetime warranty. Other than that, all we're looking to do is continue what we've been doing, moving forward, continue training, continuing being better, and moving forward. And I also want to thank Megan very much for helping me with the vehicles. DMV is not easy. So going through and working together, it helps a lot. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Megan, for doing that. And as an educator, I want to thank you for all the training that you're doing. I think that's very important. I appreciate that. Can you go back and tell us again about the smoke alarms? I think I was blinked or something. Is that for residential, commercial? What is that?
It's for residential. We can't do commercial.
Okay.
We're not that high speed, but it's all for commercial, all for residential. It's a initiative that we're teaming up with American Red Cross. And they came and taught all the firefighters how to install the alarms, how to work the alarms and stuff like that. So with this initiative, we can hopefully put fire alarms in every house. When they're doing the initiative and looking at the paperwork, Alpine's at 70% of people that do not have smoke alarms in their house.
70% do not have.
Do not have smoke alarms in their house.
Now, are the alarms included or do they need to purchase the alarms?
Nope. Well, the smoke detectors are included, but if you want to get an actual alarm system, you have to go out of pocket for that, but we just install the smoke detectors.
Okay. And those are free.
Those are absolutely free.
How do people apply for that?
Hmm?
How does people apply for that?
They just give me a call.
Okay.
James, do you have a flyer that we could put on our website?
I can make one.
Thank you.
Just so we can
Yep.
get the information.
No problem. There's an ad in the paper and there's also a radio ad on KVLF. So
Good. Councilmember Nance?
Is there a requirement to have smoke alarms in a residential house or anything else like that?
there's not, but it's highly recommended.
That's a good question.
And for free, I mean, I'll take a smoke alarm.
Yeah, Councilmember Stevens,
No, thanks very much, James. I got nothing else.
Councilmember Stone,
Just gonna suggest if we could put that on the police department Facebook when you get the flyer and any other Facebooks or anything for marketing that. I'd appreciate it. And thank you a lot, James.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
Councilmember Martinez.
I want to thank you for your hard work. And I really like that, I mean, you said that all the time that you're doing for training, that's great. So I will help in the future. And you have the city money coming soon, so you can use it however you wanted to use it.
More training.
That's good. Councilmember Escobedo.
Great presentation.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
I'm gonna read Texas code. Texas code says each one family or 2-family dwelling constructed in this state must have working smoke detectors installed in the dwelling. State law.
Yeah. Probably not enforced unless you.
No, I understand. But the question was asked, is it a requirement? It is a requirement.
Pass inspection.
Probably
Sell
that
it.
you can place blame if there's a fire.
Yeah.
Sorry?
So you could someone could place blame if there was a
Oh,
fire.
no, it's
It could
about,
also be the way that.
no, it walks through and talks about why, and you're supposed to test them once a month. It's just all about taking care of people.
All right, reports and presentations, item E, city manager.
The last presentation we have tonight is from the Alpine Emergency Services Board. It's an update and it's being provided by, I believe, the President Aaron Rodriguez. Are you serving as president?
Acting.
Acting chair, sorry, I made you
Yes,
president.
That's okay. Council Mayor, so I'm gonna keep James up here. We have a lot of stuff. I'm gonna try and cover as much as I can in 6 minutes, but hopefully, y'all are a little wowed with what we've been able to do over the past year and a half about.
But when we took it over about a year and a half ago, we had some major issues to overcome, including mainly vehicles, trying to get all the vehicles on the same page, and also firefighters and administration, things like that. When we brought James in, we started applying for grants and all kinds of stuff. So I'm gonna go over kind of some of the grants that we've gotten. We for the first time in I would say about 10 years, about a decade, we received the Yarborough grant, which is a very prestigious grant. They have provided in the past vehicles for the fire department, but for a long time they didn't do anything for Alpine. We were able to receive the grant with help of Stacy Wood. She's our treasurer, and she applied for the grant, got all the paperwork together, and we did receive a large grant for that, in which we purchased more tools and things for them. From that, James took the bull by the horns and started applying. We got all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to kind of give you some of the grants that we've gotten. And then we'll, sorry, let me get my status sheet. Okay. So, we've have a training grant, that's an ongoing training grant that's what we've been able to send the people to the fire academy with. So a lot of the money that you all provide has actually just been in it kind of helping us, because it's a reimbursement. A lot of these are reimbursement grants, so we use the money to front it, but then we're able to get that money back after they complete the scenario. So we've done that. We've received apparatus and equipment grants. We received an emergency grant for the downtown fire that provided a lot of the tools that James was talking about. It was a $15,000 grant. We have a recruitment grant right now, so James is actually working on some flyers and some other stuff with Printco that we're going to put out there to get more firefighters. We'll let you know we have about 32 firefighters right now, which is a lot compared to what we've had in the past. We also have, I believe, 6 on the fire department, the total that are certified. Yes. We have 6 on the department that are certified, which is also more than we've had in a very long time. As James was saying, certification goes through the State Firemen's and Fire Marshal Association. They're kind of the overhead for volunteer departments. So being certified through them provides us a lot of stuff. Every one of our firefighters is now registered through the State Firemen's and Fire Marshal Association, which means they receive like death and disability benefits through them, as well as our normal insurance and the fireman's fund. So yeah, we have all kinds of other grants that are in the works right now that James has submitted. But just to let you know, that's kind of where we're at with grants. We purchased, and we're getting, actually, I believe it's called Helping Hands. So we did purchase 30 new SCBA bottles, right? 30 new SCBA bottles. The SCBA bottles we had, some of them had been expired for a decade. That's not that they were in use for that. That means they've been expired for that long. We were finally able to replace that. All those bottles are being recycled, and any bottle that is not in compliance is being recycled. The rest of them we're keeping. So total, we're going to have, I believe, 46 bottles in working bottles, which once again is something that the fire department hasn't had in many years. We just got 30 bunker gears, 30 bunker gear sets as well that were donated by the Helping Hands. So in turn of us purchasing something from them, they also gave us something. We're able to help us out. Each set of bunker gear runs about 5,000. Yeah, about 5,000. $5,000 a piece is what a new set of bunker gear would cost, and we're getting 30 for no cost. Which is, you can do the math, that's quite a bit of money that we're getting. But we've been able to do all this because of the motivation of the group that we have, the members that we have, and James and his firefighters as well. So those are kind of what we have. I did turn in a financial sheet. You all can kind of look at the financial sheet. It's the one as of September. Now, the majority of money from this last year went to, as you can see, 35,000 went to kind of salaries, but I mean, they're not really salaries, they're more stipends. We cut that down. That's a major thing. Obviously, in any budget, you wouldn't want 35% of your budget or more to go towards salaries. I mean, there's an issue there. So we've cut that down, and we've traded it for this training. So we have several firefighters that are going to the December training. We have several firefighters that are going to EMR training soon, which is a emergency medical response training, which is kind of the precursor to becoming an EMT paramedic. So they learn kind of how to triage patients and that kind of stuff. So if there was ever something catastrophic out here, we have more hands than we would just, with the private ambulance service. So we're continuing to send them to training. We have guys going pretty much, I would say, every other week they're going somewhere. They go to San Angelo, they go to kind of all over this call station, all over the state of Texas. We've sent them everywhere, and it's something that, like I said, has been sorely missed with the department. They're over and beyond excited, the kids, and we have many people that want to join now that didn't join in the past or had been in firefighters before, and they're back now. So I think everything's heading in the right direction, and just kind of leave it open for y'all's questions.
Once again, we appreciate everything you're doing, especially all the training.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. All right, Councilmember Escobedo,
I'm impressed.
Councilmember Martinez.
Thank you for your hard work. I just got tired listening, oh, you have got it on, so thank you.
Yes.
Councilmember Nance.
I'm just gonna talk to you guys about the P and L, and then with the judge, when are the payments made to you guys? Because it's co-funded by the county and then us.
Correct. So the counties is already in the work. The judge submitted a PO. I talked to him. He submitted a PO for the commissioner's court to pay out probably this next commissioner's court meeting. So they will be paid out. We run off of a calendar year, so we're kind of in the middle. Now, whatever. I mean, this is the first time Paul, before he passed away, he was the one that kind of took care of that last year. So this will be the first time that I'll be requesting the money. So whatever I need to do to request that. But yeah, it would be just anytime in October when we can start requesting it, we would.
And then as long as it gets funded before January, I'm assuming.
Actually, no, can I make a follow-up statement to that? So when we did the budget this year, we kept it based on the contract, which was 40,000 unless there was additional funding. We didn't add anything extra for this upcoming year because we actually had never received financials. Unfortunately, Mr. Leffler had passed away before we actually had those discussions. So for November 5th, there's gonna be an agenda item to approve an additional 10,000 for a total of 50,000. Once council approves it on the 5th, then we'll cut a check for the full amount to the county, or to the Alpine Emergency Services Board. I just was gonna wait until we got that additional 10,000 approved. We do have funding through one of our reserve accounts for fire, equipment and items. And so I'll get your permission and we'll cut the check. So you approved the 40.
All right.
And then but we'll probably issue 50.
Yes, I figured you guys, well, I didn't figure, I wanted you guys to see the financials before we started cutting more and more checks and money. So that you could see, not only have that conversation with the board, but also see where their money's going.
And I heard the county was gonna cut a $50,000. So last year, was it 40-40 from each?
It was 40-40, plus, we did receive some other money from donations and some stuff. We did have quite a large, bill when we first started, attorney's fees for filing the organization and that kind of stuff. So we did receive some money for that covered that. But yes, last year, as far as it was 40 and 40 was what came in. Now, like I said, we do have, so that what you're seeing there, the 23,000, it's kind of fluctuating right now. And we didn't have time to reconcile for October before we sent it in. That's why that's September. But basically it fluctuates because it actually goes up based off of reimbursements. Really, we're not really spending the money in that account other than to get reimbursed right now. Pretty much everything we've done has been reimbursable in some way or another.
And there's a special commissioners court meeting on Friday. This is one of the 2 items on the agenda.
And this P and L goes from August last year to August this year.
Correct. We did the whole year.
So in that, I guess, just for clarification, that extra 20,000, where do you guys see that money being needed and being put?
So we still have vehicles that do need attention. We have they have come down here, so the judge was able to what's it called? Sid and Martin. They came down and they looked at all the county vehicles, Terlingua fire vehicles, and Alpine vehicles, and they put together kind of what all the vehicles needed. The the engine two was a high dollar one. So that's kind of what we're looking at doing, is trying to get every vehicle operational, and be able to pay some of the big ticket stuff, because like I said, right now, we're kind of working on the fact that what we can get reimbursed, we're paying, but then we have a 30 to 45 day window of waiting to get reimbursed for that. So we can't really make a big purchase until we have that other funding come in. And this past year, our funding was, it was our first year, right? So we had to kind of see what are we actually going to spend money on and what are we not. And so we'll have a good grasp on it this year. Plus, I will be, the next time I come, or wherever comes from us, we'll have a true budget form for you guys that'll kind of outline everything with James, kind of what we expect to be spending the money on for this next year.
Okay. And then a question for the judge, from my viewpoint is, South County has a special tax district, does it not, that runs from the sales tax?
Yeah, Judge, please come to the.
And then my question would be, is that only medical?
No, South County has the Emergency Services District, which collects sales tax. And to a tune of about $180,000 a year. It's for both fire and EMS.
Yep.
So, you know, what these guys have done in the last 6 months is incredible. And what I found it as a firefighter, what they really want is training, discipline, structure, and good gear. And we're going to give them that. And so I'm encouraging you guys to kick your budget up. I'm going to come back next year and we're going to do another 10. We want to get this fire department back to where it should have been all along. The citizens of North Brewster County deserve this. And I think we're making some great strides in that. So you guys ride with us. We're going to have a good time with this. And I think these guys are doing a great job of spending it wisely. By the way, they just got a $5,400 grant for mannequins from the hospital district.
Good.
There was no training mannequins in North Brewster County to do CPR training. So we've got a whole raft of new mannequins coming in. And I'm going to be teaching the emergency management, emergency first aid class Wednesday nights. Come by. If you want to hear about broken ankles and shock and bleeding and head injuries. We welcome many of y'all come by 6 o'clock on Wednesday night for the next 8 nights. 8 Wednesdays.
Thank you, Jackson.
Councilmember Stevens.
Thanks for what you're doing. I'm going to continue on a discussion with Darren on the balance sheet. I was surprised to see there's only $17,000 of assets. That's all the vehicles are worth?
No. So the problem with determining assets, we didn't have a good proper inventory sheet before,
Okay.
so it just got completed. So I'm working with Stacy now. We had a brand new QuickBooks when we started, fresh, nothing. So now we've got to go in there and actually value everything. But we also needed an inventory sheet of what we had, and
That's okay. And I know we have on the agenda item tonight, transfer 3 more vehicles over, I think, on the list. So, okay, it'll be,
Inventory was a problem even when
oh, yeah.
both of us were doing it at the same
Yeah,
time.
okay. So we can move that over.
The inventory is technically on the county's books.
It is.
Insuring.
Oh,
We're
okay.
insuring all the assets,
Okay.
our insurance. So it really does, all these assets are effectively on loan to the AESB for them to manage, so that.
Oh, okay.
We do need to get an equipment list.
Okay.
Detailed one, but at the end of the day, those are all.
They're still in the county. Thanks very much, Judge. The other question I had was, equipment maintenance, when I saw it was like, $9,500 a year. Do you have some sense of what you think that's gonna go to, back to kind of Darren's comment? 9.5 seems a little bit anemic. I understand you're fiscally constrained, just trying to give us a sense about what you see going forward.
I'll answer that one. So for the past 10 to 15 years, all the equipment's been neglected.
Yep, I know that, yeah.
So that $9,500 was basically repairing everything that we had.
So let's fix it.
So instead of fixing it, we're gonna maintain it now.
Yeah.
So all big problems are done.
Okay.
And I can tell you kind of, so on that, I will just add the add, if I can pull it up in here, the amount from, did you put that first one?
It's okay, I'll leave this in mind.
Okay, so basically, yeah, the Sids and Martin to come and actually not maintain, but get the vehicles back up to snuff was over 20,000.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, that's
I
what,
was
yeah.
expecting,
And when,
still
once,
ballpark.
exactly. So once we are able to pay for everything, now we can take it one vehicle at a time. But we'd like to just have them come down, fix everything. We don't worry about it. Once that's done, then we start the maintenance part
I'm
of it.
with you. Okay, well, that alone in my mind is part of why the additional 20,000 is needed.
Yes, yeah, that's it.
From the county to go on. Okay, thank you. I'm done.
Okay, Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate all y'all are doing. I said last time, we always need y'all. It's nobody ever wants to pay for anything, but at the same time, you gotta have y'all ready. With that, I'm wondering when we can get that budget. I'll be honest, I'm gonna take the judge's word, because I like where his head is to keep moving this up. But at the same time, when we can see, some even more numbers, knowing y'all are doing such an amazing job with that.
So I would imagine that we'll take care of it. We have our meeting at the end of this month, between this month, and we'll probably need another meeting in the middle of next month. And what we'll do is kind of between there, since we do work off of a calendar year, it'll be done, I would say mid-November.
Yeah,
And that'll
definitely
be,
by end of year.
yes,
it
yeah,
sounds like it.
yes.
Okay, cool. And the only other thing that I'll note is kind of, it really seems that a lot of your funding obviously can come from public places, but I'm sure, just like y'all are noting, there are grants out there that could, increase y'all tenfold every single time you start looking at, finding more places to do that. We are having a very difficult time hiring a grant manager at the city level with what I think is a little bit subpar of a salary, to be honest, especially noting that in, 5 or 10 years, they're going to be managing $100 million worth of grants as we get into some of our huge projects. This might be a cool time to think about how we could work together with the county and having a grants department that serves, I'm thinking having 2 to 3 people in there with a manager and a couple of folks being able to manage hundreds of millions of dollars of grants, bringing those dollars to West Texas. And so just floating that idea while it's a little bit germane here. And I hope everybody can chew on that a little bit, but thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
I
gentlemen.
have one last question, sorry. Would be, in Marfa, I believe that there was a couple areas that were unreachable by a fire truck, maybe the cupola of that area. Is there any part in Alpine that's unreachable by fire truck?
So I would say, portions, I would say maybe, but we do have, so one of the things that was purchased in the past is that we do have a off-road vehicle. They do have an ATV with a water source on the back of it that can take them into the places. Plus, another thing that I didn't even get to touch on, like I said, there's a ton of stuff. So if y'all ever want to come to one of our meetings, you can hear Rusty's the secretary, and he's like, it's hard for him to keep up sometimes, so we're just going.
So Aaron, are you
so-
saying there's places within the city of Alpine?
It wouldn't be within the city, it would be more into the county. But either way, it would be residents here. Now, the neat thing is James is putting together an actual wildland group that they're gonna be certified. They're gonna have the equipment, they're gonna be trained, and their job is to go take care of places like that. So if they can't get a truck in there, then their job is to go save that, by cutting lines or whatever they have to do. So that is in the works too, which is, that's amazing to have for our town. Normally, we rely on Texas Forestry Service to take care of those kinds of things. But to have, at least 5-10 guys in their own backyard that can take care of that, they'll get there much faster than, the TFS.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Thank you, James. And with that, again, we're closing reports and presentations and moving on to information or discussion items. The first item belongs to city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The first item for discussion this evening is to discuss the suggested boundaries for the historic district study being conducted by Post Oak for the downtown area of Alpine. If you recall, at one of our meetings when we approved the Post Oak study, the council did ask or request that we also have a meeting to discuss the boundaries themselves. I know there was a lot of discussion on what is an actual boundary, what is downtown, what do we want to include, what do we not want to include. So they have put together a presentation tonight. It is in your packets, and Geo does have it available to share online. And so I will let you take it.
Thanks, Megan. Hi, Council and Mayor. Good to see you all again. So I'm Ellis Mumford Russell with Post Oak Preservation. I've got a couple goals today. One is primarily to talk about the boundaries, but I also just wanted to provide you all an update of where we are in the process and the timeline. So if we could just skip like the first couple slides, because it's really who we are. And then we can look at the map. Yeah. There we go. So here's our proposed boundary, and you guys have it in your packet. So when I presented with you all before, we had a smaller boundary. With suggestions from you all and some additional research that we've done, we've expanded the boundary, especially on the south side. And that's really to try to capture more historic commercial resources. This is not the final boundary. I spent most of today in the archives still, so we're still digging into the research. And so really open to discussion here in terms of if there are some significant commercial resources that you think we've missed, or areas that we should expand our search. And just as a reminder, for the downtown district, we're really focused on commercial and institutional structures. If there's a desire to do a residential district, that could be a separate effort later. But the goal really, intended in our discussions was to focus on that downtown commercial. So with that, I'm happy to answer questions or entertain, if you all have some suggestions or places where you want us to expand, we can do that.
I would suggest that you just summarize
Sure.
quickly, Quick Notes version, how this affects people in
Sure.
the town, how it doesn't tell them that they can have
Yeah.
to paint a certain color.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, glad to do that.
Yeah, just to refresh their.
Yeah,
memories.
so as a reminder, what we've been engaged to do is to do a National Register of Historic Places designation for downtown. National Register designation is a purely honorific listing. And so that does not encumber the property with any review from the city, from the state, or from federal agencies. This is really just a way to tell and honor the story of Alpine. It comes with some significant benefits. So income producing and nonprofit properties can take advantage of state and federal historic tax credits that can help offset the costs of rehabilitation. There's also a lot of grant opportunities for properties located within the historic district. So this is really, honorific, and it can be a really effective economic development tool for downtown if you have buildings that need rehabilitation.
All right, and when do you think you might have more of a finalized?
This is what we're working with right now, to bring to you all, and then, I'm happy to revise it based on what we talk about today.
Okay.
Mhm.
Great. All right, Councilmember Stevens?
I have no additional comments. My view is you all are doing all the work. We have no approval authority, don't want any approval authority. I have no additional
Okay.
suggestions.
Councilmember Escobedo?
I don't have any, but this is very well put together.
Okay. Councilmember Stone?
I appreciate all y'all are doing. I'll say the same sentiments as Councilmember Stevens, that we're paying y'all to do the work here. And I'll make one comment that I appreciate you looking south and looking at our historically Hispanic and sometimes underutilized or under or marginalized community, I
Yeah.
guess I might put that. And appreciate you doing that. So thank you.
Councilmember Martinez?
Hi again.
Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. Thank you for all the hard work. But you said that it's just for commercial, so most of the area in the south, they are residential. Do they qualify?
Yeah, and so the south side's tough. That's why, we were having a hard time with defining that boundary, because there's residential and commercial mixed in together. And what I found in research, even, learning a little more today, is that there were some structures that historically were commercial that are now residential. There's some structures that were both, that there's a store in the front and a residence in the back. And that's not that uncommon for, your typical downtown Main Street building that might have a residence above. So all of that to say, we're still sorting it out. But, this boundary we're looking at is the survey area. And so our research might have us shrink or expand this a little bit based on us, really digging in address by address, what was every building historically. That was a long answer, but
I know, I know.
we're trying to.
And do you send letters, or they have to come in contact to be apply for this? How do that work?
Yeah, so we will be doing the survey and field work, on our own without needing contact from property owners. If property owners do have information about the history of their properties or historic buildings, I have an email address on the last slide that we've set up where folks can share that information, stories, photos with us. When we get farther along in the process, and I'll summarize the timeline on the next slide, all property owners will get a notification letter.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good to see you. Okay, Councilmember Nance.
Sorry, I got a lot of questions.
That's fine.
How late can the boundaries be amended in the
Oh,
process?
we are very preliminary. So do we want to look at the timeline or do you want to keep the map up and we can?
Timeline.
Okay, so the next slide shows the timeline and you guys have it in there too. And so that can describe where we're at. So right now we are still very preliminary. Like I said, I spent the day in the archives. It's like third archive visit for this so far. For this district, we are planning on doing the survey in January. And so that's going to give us the time between now and then to really digest the information that we have. I've gone ahead and built the inventory table for that boundary. And then our plan is in the spring to submit that inventory as a determination of eligibility to Texas Historical Commission. And so that inventory will have a draft boundary and kind of our potential list of eligible properties. And then with feedback from Texas Historical Commission, that's when we're going to finalize it. So it's probably going to be next spring or summer when we're going to have, this is what the boundary is. So the boundary that I'm showing you here is what we're going to look at. And then we'll do the inventory. Then we'll submit that this spring. And then we'll negotiate it with them.
So that boundary could be brought in or removed, all through that
Yeah,
process?
yep.
The next question I had was, I saw that there's some sections in here that interest me. The sheriff and the jail is listed in that over here.
Mhm.
As well, Baines Park, half of Baines Park was in there. In what ways can this help city properties?
There are grant opportunities for city-owned properties that are National Register listed. So there's state grants specifically that municipalities can use for historic properties.
And this is just a rough boundary. We don't know that all the buildings within.
That's right. That's
are
right.
50 years old or anything.
Yeah, what we've based the boundary on is the concentration of commercial and institutional buildings and older buildings. And within the final listed boundary, there will be resources that are considered non-contributing. So those might be buildings that are less than 50 years old, or they're old, but they've been so heavily modified that you can't recognize them anymore.
And because I also saw churches.
Right.
Some of the historical churches.
Yeah.
So they would have, it could be beneficial to them as well.
That's right, in the grant way, and then the state historic tax credit is actually available for nonprofits because it's sellable. So even though churches don't owe taxes, they can sell their state tax credit to organizations that do. So we've actually worked with a lot of churches to get state
So
tax
that means if a
credits.
church came out and did $100,000 worth of work, they could get up to 25%.
That's right. That's right, yeah. And with what's great about the Texas credit is that you only have to spend $5,000 and you can apply to it. So with churches that we've worked with, they're often, this year we're doing the roof, let's apply for the credit. You know, so $10,000 project this year. Next year, we're going to do fire sprinklers. We're working on a church that just did, that's a big one, you know, and we're getting Texas credits for them.
So we should be cognizant of that when we're looking at these boundaries of where
Sure.
it could help churches or anything
That's
else.
right.
Also, I was wondering, is it possible in other projects you've worked on to pull the establishment date or the build date from CAD data?
It's not always accurate. So when we always have to take CAD data with a grain of salt. So when we're establishing building dates, we're looking at a lot of historic maps, historic photographs, of course, and then any narrative histories that we have, newspaper articles, things like that.
So don't base it off CAD data.
No.
Last question is just, I think, more of a comment, but we have some people here that are going to speak about the noise and everything else. So I think this is going to tie in, co-tie in with comprehensive plan, because when the city starts defining what's commercial, what can be commercial and everything else, this is really going to gear capital to certain properties that can be renovated. And then all of a sudden, areas that may not be borderline on residential zones or anything else like that now have the opportunity to be commercial. So I think I am for this project. I think it's a great project, but I just think that there are going to be some hiccups down because it is going to change a lot of things in the future on where capital inflows get moved towards the city. But that was it.
City manager?
I'm not sure how old the building is, but the community center which is on Gallego.
Yes.
I don't believe it's in the boundaries.
Okay,
If it is meeting that qualifications, I think it would be good because the family crisis center. I know they're doing some remodeling. I don't know how extensive, but it may help them in the long run for tax credits.
okay, got it.
And it may not, is it 50 years old?
I think it's more.
I think it is.
It's hard to meet.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
At least.
Yeah.
Okay,
But that's on Gallego, but it's not within the district. But I
Okay.
know that that would be, I mean, that is something of our.
yeah,
communities.
Gallego is, when we were revising this, I'm tempted to increase more of Gallego that we have included in the district, but we're just still digging. There's so much.
All right,
We are very fortunate in Alpine with the amount of resources that we have for research.
good.
And there's a lot that we gotta dig through.
Yes.
So.
All right,
mhm.
all right, great. All right, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's it. And
Appreciate-
you guys have the rest of the packet, which has our,
Was
the
there
full
more that
schedule
you wanted
in
to
there.
present to us? Did you
Well,
wanna
I
tell us
just
a little bit
wanted
about Coconut?
to, yeah, just give a quick
Okay.
update on the
Go
other
Coconut.
project, which
Okay.
is Coconut. So we're doing the National Register nomination for that individually. I'll be doing our site visit to take photographs for that tomorrow.
Good.
And for that, we're gonna have the determination of eligibility submitted before the end of the year. So we're kind of
Good.
fast tracking Coconut, and
Okay.
then we can focus on Alpine.
And
Yeah.
are you focusing just on what's owned by the school district? Are you focusing on, because I know that the city owns a.
That's right.
Sliver of land.
Little bits, yeah, so what we are focusing on is what was the historic extent of Coconut. So that's gonna cross ownerships,
Okay.
you know? So really everything that was built as part of that facility would get included. Okay,
All right,
that's
great.
it. Thank
Well,
you so much.
Thank you very much. All right, moving on to discussion item B. This one's mine, discussion regarding outcomes with the current noise ordinance, successes, complaints, and processes for investigations. There have been some residents who wanted us to look at the noise ordinance again and reevaluate it. Chief, can I have you come up? And also, Chris, you're here. You were on that committee that helped to establish the noise ordinance, and you're part of the music friendly. If you would come on up too. Maybe you can give us a little bit of information about how the numbers were established, and what we actually use to measure it. Are we using
Well, the,
devices on our phone? What are we doing?
right, well, yeah.
Okay.
Chris Ruggia, Daryl Estoya.
Yeah.
So when it initially began, we based it on several different other community ordinances, most directly from Fredericksburg's. The specific numbers, APD did some measurements at, an outdoor concert that was actually at the Crystal to determine some benchmarks at different distances for what volumes would be workable within the neighborhood, so that the people at the event can have a good time, get the experience they're there for, but it's not gonna impinge too much on the neighborhoods. And APD has decibel detectors. Of course, how loud anything is dependent on wind direction and lots of other things. So that is measured at 200 feet from the property line in any given direction.
So if you actually speak, you can actually see how the numbers fluctuate.
Okay.
And so,
I see that, yes.
and so these are the readings we get. One of the, took some numbers from some of our calls that we've taken.
But it will be a normal number of the music or noise in general.
Well, it matters. We do understand, like, when the Crystal was open, the numbers are high. But they weren't exceeding even though there's so much things that go along with it. When we first brought this ordinance together, the things that we considered, thank God I had Chris with me because I wanted to be able to remember everything, but we're in a bowl. Alpine is in a bowl. So everything all the sounds that we have, it just reverberates throughout the community. We have complaints of the Crystal all the way over, by Mr. Stevens' home. I know when I'm over at my house and, I can hear, if we had an event over on Murphy Street, I can hear the music clearly. But unfortunately, it doesn't meet the parameters as far as the decibel readings. And so, let me get back to these numbers.
Now, council, in your packet, they have the number of calls.
Oh, yeah.
And where the locations were, as well as the current ordinance.
Yeah.
And so,
look at it.
if you look into the ordinances, as far as the evening hours and nighttime hours and how the readings should be, sound levels not exceeding, shall not exceed the following 85 decibels during daytime hours, right? 75 decibels during evening hours, commercial or evening hours, residential as applicable. 65 during nighttime hours, commercial, 55 nighttime hours, residential. So these are things that we have to, we get different locations. We usually get 3 readings when we use our decibel meter. And so it just matters. There's times when the officers are running from one call to the other, and they'll just go to the place and say, hey, turn your music down, and they have to run off to another call. And that does happen. And so I have one complaint here. This one came from the Crystal. This is on August 5th, 2023. It was just about 11 o'clock, and the readings were 62, 64, 62 at different locations. And the way that the ordinance reads, it's 65. And so it wasn't above the ordinance. And so those are things that we have to deal with. Again, there's times that we show up and the music's already turned down. And so I have this one lady, she calls me and she told me, she goes, Daryl, I think they have a scanner, because every time that I call you, your dispatcher puts it on the radio, and then all of a sudden the music's turned down. And so I'm sure that happens. I've heard my voice on the radio behind somebody's house as I'm talking on the radio. So it does happen. But those are the things that some of the occurrences that we have to deal with.
How are these decibels determined when you guys, if you remember back, when y'all came together to put this ordinance together, how are they?
What they were based on a specific concert. And so Daryl and some of the officers attended the event. It was a Bart Crow concert. So that's a visiting
In
at
Fredericksburg or?
Crystal Bar, at
Okay.
Old Crystal Bar. So so they observed the levels. We thought that was a good case study. It was a visiting performer. And just to see, so what we did was we compared both the measurements, the numeric measurements they took, but also their own ears as they were standing there taking those measurements, as to how loud does it feel, as well as, and so we kind of combined those two things. One other thing that was observed was that when the band was over and a DJ took over, the volume went way up. That the live music that night was not nearly as loud as the recorded music. And so that was one of the observations that led us to, when we created the live music permit, which would potentially, if you got that permit, you could have slightly later, as Chief was saying, as the evening goes on, the noise level goes down, that you would basically have one step later if you had that permit. But we decided that wasn't going to be eligible for recorded music, especially since it had this temptation or tendency to be that much louder. So that's kind of how we determined those numbers.
And we explained that to them. So once your band quits and the DJ starts playing, you got to turn that down, because it matters. We had back to the Crystal Bar, they would have like an MC that would talk between. Well, it seemed like every time that he started talking, his mic was turned up louder than what the band was, and so you could hear him yelling, trying to encourage the crowd, but unfortunately, we told them you gotta turn that one down. When the band's playing, that's totally different, but when you start talking, start yelling on the microphone, it changes the decibel readings.
How many of these are they in every police car?
No, we have two.
Two.
Yes, and so we have them stationed there at the police department. Usually our night shift guy will, that works, 4 nights out of the week, he'll keep it with him so that he doesn't have to run back to the office every time. So we have 2 of them, so.
Okay, I have one more question, then I'll open it to council if they have any comments or questions. So after talking with residents, after this ordinance has been in place for almost 2 years, right, at this time? What changes, if any, do you see need to be made?
I think a lot of these places are now switching to or to live music. I think that's a positive thing. It's just not somebody that's just yelling into a microphone or DJ just playing beat music. So it encourages them to get live music. I think that helps.
I guess, one of the things I've observed is at the Ritchie specifically, that the owners, they talk to the bands and give them their expectations that the music will not go later than a specific period of time. And people still complain, but they absolutely are concerned about their neighbor's experience. So one of your challenges, obviously it's on your shoulders, is trying to find that balance between, see, right now, the thing that the ordinance has now that we did not have before is that a live music venue has a benchmark that they know they can have their event if they abide by these noise restrictions. Whereas before, they were at the mercy of, if somebody didn't like their event, they could just complain, and a certain number of complaints, and that was it. So that's a huge difference, is that now there's always discussion that can be had about the specific levels. But of course, living in community, I don't have the luxury of not hearing my neighbor's music when they decide to work in their garage, on their car or whatever, they're gonna play it. It's not unreasonable. I don't like it, but it's not unreasonable. And so we can't have the expectation that we're gonna have silence whenever we want it. And so we have to find that middle ground. Right now, I feel like the ordinance as written hits a reasonable middle ground, but somebody who's trying to sleep and maybe their back hurts and the club down the streets has a band is not gonna feel that way regardless of how loud it is. So I don't know.
And it can be subjective, because of the way a person's tolerance is. It just depends.
Councilmember Stevens?
So my suggestion is we go on a field trip. And we sit here, we listen to what the numbers are. We're not out in the field. We have people come in and says, hey, it's an issue. I think we ought to go out one night and go listen. Bring Daryl and whoever else wants, bring decimal meters. Because there's lots of data out there. I've been sitting here looking, in a neighborhood that says, 60 dB. We've got 65 dB right now. I couldn't tell you there's between 60 and 65. And I think folks like Mateo, we ought to bring Mateo over to the discussion as well. I mean, here you've got Hotel Ritchie in a neighborhood with concerned folks. Let's go out discussion, get educated. I think it's hard for us to make those judgment calls, sitting here from the podium without some real facts and data. So that's my recommendation. We ought to go on a field trip, line it up one night and go do it.
I just heard city party.
But that'll give us some insights about, then we can go back and have a discussion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Gio or Megan, can y'all put that on a list for us so we can get the ball rolling? on
Friday
that?
night.
Whoever's
Saturday night.
department, I don't know, whoever.
So typically the Hotel Ritchie, so the Crystal is not open currently.
Right.
So your choices would be the American Legion, the Hotel Ritchie, the Railroad Blues. Is there a particular night you want?
I think we need to look at.
Friday,
schedules,
Saturdays,
get
or
2 or 3 of those.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot more shots at the Ritchie right now because they're booking a lot more than the others, but So for convenience, you might start there.
Yeah, and they're accommodating. I mean, Mateo and the crew, they want to work.
Yeah, they do.
I'm also gonna point out, it is homecoming weekend for Soul Ross.
This could be a little
And
tough.
they are going to have live music at the runway, or the hangar, sorry, part of the runway. So that may be a place you guys want to, that will happen Friday and Saturday.
That's a good opportunity.
Great. All right, Councilmember Escobedo.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, I did have the experience of sitting down at the Rodriguez's property and inside, but it was really more like I was actually at the Ritchie Hotel.
Because it was loud.
I could hear everything, and actually I was having a hard time hearing them talking to me, and I thought, okay. But yeah, it'll be a good experience to do. The parking will be also interesting.
Okay. So how are we gonna get a bus? How are we gonna, what are the logistics? Just show
I
up.
can't go. I'm in Washington DC this weekend, but.
Yeah.
I would
feel-
say if you wanna start the closest this weekend, the Skeltons, it is a big event. I would just show up. You're supporting Soul Ross at the same time.
Heck
It's
yeah.
part of the
Yeah, it's football game starts at 7 o'clock on Saturday.
All right, Councilmember Nance.
Couple questions. We have a lot of data here. How many of these are repeat complaints? Are these like, is it 80% of the complaints are from 20% of the people? It's redacted on our.
No. I would say probably about 25% are repeat. And so, some of them are, most of them are all residential. This is where neighbors are complaining on neighbors. There's a car driving by that has their music turned up. Those are most of the calls. I would say probably 25% are actual commercial. For their complaining either on a venue that has their music up too loud. And one of the conversations I had with Mr. Stevens, that it's surprising to be honest with you, that the runway hasn't, I haven't seen any complaints on them. Yeah, and I've been in there during one of the football games. I can't even, I'm hard of hearing, so I can't have a normal conversation talking to somebody, so, but that's there at the venue.
And your call logs are from January of 23 to September 28th of 24. So it's a little over a year.
It said, I'm gonna mention, one thing you said here was that the gentleman that works night takes the device, the decibel device. Which tells you the majority of these issues are probably nighttime issues.
Yes, sir. We have one shift that goes from 3 to 1. And then we have a shift that comes in, this is on the weekend again, from 7 until 5, and then 9 until 7. And so those 3 officers usually are rotating, taking calls on them.
And that was pretty much it. One question, just out of curiosity, I'm sure the answer is no, but has a noise case ever elevated to the municipal court? Have we ever fined somebody?
No, so the ones that, they're all handled, just fine, so.
Just turn it down.
Yeah.
Everything I had.
Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
Well, this is a hard decision, because, I've been lately several times in the Ritchie Hotel. And when you are there, it doesn't sound that
Right.
hard. I would just celebrate private party. And they had music and didn't sound that loud.
Yeah.
And they stopped at 9, they said, this is the time that we have. So I don't know, it would be hard to please everybody. Alpine is growing and we have to accept that, that, the wind and the echo has a lot of things to do because probably we don't listen to music too loud there, but the winds go that way and then the neighbor this way complaining that it's too loud. Because Mateo said that all the whole neighbors have their phone number. So they have my phone number and they call me, it's too loud. But I mean, we need business, we need, the Alpine to move all that economical development that we wanted to do. But how we make a balance of that, it's always people in both sides,
And I think he's pretty accommodating by shutting down at 8 o'clock compared to other places.
Oh, yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, under the ordinance, he could go way later and way louder than he does, so.
So I think that they are following the instructions, but they're making it hard on their businesses, and we need more businesses, and so people just go to listen to music and have a drink, not necessarily to get drunk. So I don't know, it's a hard decision to get a balance, to have happy neighbors and keep growing on businesses, as a business owner, I know we wanted to keep growing and have more customers, but I don't know, it's more harder on you because they call you. And we said, what we can do here, sitting here, so.
One thing that will be interesting, it's just occurring to me that, they have a second stage, that they have an area where they intend to put a second stage. It faces the building. Right now, their little stage faces the neighborhood. And so I wonder if, when that's done, if it actually isn't a little bit better for the neighborhood because just the direction that the speakers point. I don't know, because sound does crazy stuff, but.
Yeah, when the Catholic Church has it's been a long time, but when the Catholic Church had their concerts out there on their patio, I mean, you could hear the whole north side of town, you could hear that music.
Because it's high.
Because it was high and it was elevated and going down to town.
Oh, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a hard
I may have to test it out tomorrow at the Ritchie and have me some
drinks.
glorious enchiladas and some drinks.
Yeah. Well, that's what I said. I've been there lately and tried all the food, and it doesn't sound loud
No.
when you are there.
I can have a normal conversation and not have to yell. so.
And you're saying this like on live music, right? Not at DJ. So
Live
it would
music.
make a
And
big
then there's
difference.
all live music.
They have live music all the time.
Yeah, their recorded music is just inside.
Yeah.
Just ambient in the room.
Sometimes it's better than music, cumbias, Mexican music.
Councilmember Stone?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a couple questions and then also want to make the suggestion along with the fact finding, which I think is a great first step, is we have a music committee hearing coming up soon. So I think we were trying to do it for October 29th, if that's still the date. I know we need to confirm that and get it scheduled, but I do encourage residents to come out to that. Of course, we're gonna hear everybody. We want to acknowledge everybody, and we'll also have, of course, some musicians and business owners there too, to be able to talk about that as well. And also to add to that is, we're working to bring Mateo onto that music advisory board, because I know he is the by far the biggest bringer of music to the community right now, and so I think he'd be a great asset. So I look forward to bringing that when we clear the route for that. With that too, I'd like a couple of quick questions, and then I plan to really deep dive into this, and I look forward to bringing this up as a major topic at our meeting. But are these, is the ordinance based on where the zone you're in, or is it based on just that you have a music license?
The ordinance is based, commercial residential, so it gets quieter earlier if you're not commercially in a commercial area. The only, the permit just gets you, like I said, it gets you one step, like you can be at daytime hours in the evening hours at night, if you have that.
Yeah, that might be helpful to even, we can make a little craft for the meeting to be able to show residents and stuff where this is. And another couple of quick ideas here as we start to discuss this more. I have my own complaints I remember hearing when I first moved here. I thought it was like Fort Davis where we didn't have a music ordinance until honestly I came on the council last year. And the meeting before I joined council was, and all the complaints about the VFW were happening. What a meeting that was. But I don't know if it's the Legion or Railroad or Crystal, but I will hear music at my home till midnight or 1 a.m. And I'm sure everyone has things like that as well. The ways of starting to look at this, I think there is a place perhaps for fines. I know you're not doing that right now, and I appreciate until we figure out what the way to go, but you know, if you have so many in a certain period, then maybe there is something like that, because it's not a good steward like Mateo is probably a pretty good
Yes.
a model for what's going on here. He's going above our ordinances and he's meeting all of the community as well. And then the last thing I'll say is this is a study that I didn't work on specifically, but I worked a little bit when I was working in the city of Austin. Is they built the huge Mopac Expressway right through large amounts of residential areas. And that thing's loud all the time. It will always be loud. It's a huge major highway, and it used to not be. And they came up with two different models that they could do. They either were going to decrease taxes the closer that you were to the highway because they knew that you were going to lose your peace. And noise was a big thing about that. You know, the closer you were within blocks, you got a lower tax rate a little bit. And obviously there's high taxes in Austin. Or they were going to spend a bunch of money on building barriers, walls, and putting bushes up. Now they went with the walls and bushes. Nobody is happy about it that either. And so there's something here to be said that maybe there is. I both want to encourage music to come to town and continue using our funds to be able to get out to the businesses to bring the music here, but also be able to collect maybe some funds to be able to help community members be able to either figure out whether that's a decrease in taxes or an incentive to be able to build a wall and get some public funds to be able to help with that too. So there's a lot of different things that could play into this. And I know that's all probably a year. Those are big ideas. But you know, I hope we can explore all of that too.
And Councilmember Stone, Geo emailed earlier today that issue about the seat on the music advisory board. It has been vacated, so you can do that sponsoring.
Bring up Mateo hopefully next meeting. That sounds great.
Just make sure he submits an application.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I have one final question for you, Chief. In looking at the noise ordinance, if there is the 65 decibels, is it measured from because the Ritchie's commercial, say there's a residential right next to it. Is it measured from where the sound originates or?
No.
Okay, so the residential, so if there's music at a commercial place, the Ritchie, if you go one lot over to a residential lot, it should be 10 decibels less.
So we tried using the 200 feet, and so on one of the complaints on the Ritchie, on 6-9, at Fifth and Holland, it was at 55. At Murphy and 6, it was 49, and at Fourth and Avenue F was 48. So,
I
What
guess
time was that?
and before 9 o'clock, or just around 9 o'clock somewhere.
my question is, so residential was what, 55 and commercial was 65? I think there was about a 10 decibel difference.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
if you were 200 feet away and the sound's originating in a commercial spot and you go right over next and it's the residential, you do it needs to drop 10 decibels
Well,
to abide by the residential.
so it's coming from a commercial property.
So it comes, it's
65.
where it originates.
Yes,
Okay.
in that sense, yeah,
Yes.
the rule, yeah, your allowable volume comes from the spot it originates, yeah, rather than what you're reporting.
But I think the point you're raising, if you have a commercial and 200 feet away is a residential, 65 is where it could be, as opposed to it might be 55. So in my mind, those are the sorts of things we really want to work on our field trip.
But not this weekend. I won't be here.
Okay. All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, and with that, we're gonna take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Yeah. This one belongs to Councilmember Escobedo. If you would please read it and then begin the discussion.
Actually, on this action item, I would like to move it to the next meeting, please.
Okay. You like the one? Move it to the next meeting. Okay, City
Is there any
Secretary.
way some-
I would just take a motion, a second majority vote.
Okay, so we have a motion. I need a second.
Second.
I need a majority vote. Well, I don't know why, but she wants to move it to the next.
Why?
Oh, because I have some other things that I need to include, other properties with the same situation.
Okay. Okay. All right, City Secretary, this has been moved to the next council meeting, so it's
If you don't mind,
pardon?
who made the motion?
Motion second.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Moved to the next city council meeting. It's been tabled until then. A majority of the council voted to move this discussion item.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to discussion item D. This one belongs to me. Discussion regarding improvements to the Alpine Casperos Municipal Airport to make it more dark sky friendly. I've had residents, like, especially with the comment out, people are more astrologically minded right now. Astronomically minded right now. And some have complained about the airport and the beacon, and I wanted to open this up to discussion. I know Councilmember Stevens has some thoughts. Also, we have the manager of the airport here, supervisor.
I'm the manager, he's the supervisor.
Okay, the supervisor. So Abel, if you want to come to the podium in case there's any questions or anything, you'll be okay. We won't bite you.
Yeah.
You'll be okay. So we wanted to discuss this, and then in the future, hopefully we can talk about TxDOT too, because they're very bright. And I know that's a state entity, but anyway, I'm gonna open that up. I want to start with Councilmember Stevens, since he is a pilot and he frequents the airport and he knows what is needed for safety and what we can possibly do to help brighten our dark skies, or less the bright.
Yeah, so my sense is there's two issues. One is beacon, which is a pilot. It's nice to be able to turn that thing on and be able to see when you're coming in. And then I know the air ambulance, that'd be an issue for them. And then I presume it's making sure we're compliant with the lighting at the airport. So it'd be helpful to know what the specific complaints are to think about. So I'm gonna be leaving at 2:00 in the morning on Friday, headed to Dallas. And I have hanger lights on the outside, but I have dark sky compliant lights that focus down on my hanger. So I roll the plane out, I do my pre-flight checks, and then out on the road. I'll turn the lights on. I do that from the cockpit. And then on my way, and I think everyone is fairly well compliant, but the beacon coming back in is nice. Because at least you can say if there's something going on, where am I going or what am I gonna see? Because you cannot see runway lights until you're within a certain distance. So, and didn't we ask Stephen to go take a look out there to tell us about?
Yes.
Did he come out?
Yes.
Yeah, from McDonald Observatory, yeah.
He only found there was a few, I think at the CBP hangars.
Yep.
But their lights, the way they're set, they go point out and down, so they don't actually point up. But he just wanted something to give him a little more. And the other thing, he said there was like 1 or 2 lights that we have that he could give us some bar shields.
Shield.
She put some shields on.
Yeah,
That-
and he would give them to us. So I mean, I had asked him last time and when the beacon was brought up, he was more like, well, that's a safety thing.
Yeah,
He's all, and that's federal.
right.
So that's FAA, so, but he didn't really say. There was no real complaints from him.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do know that the article was included, last meeting about the example of the beacon. Where someone had that you could control from the aircraft on 122.8. That was from 2012 and a very remote airport, which makes sense. If I was the air ambulance operator, I'd want the beacon on. That's because they're flying at all hours. And so controlling that from wherever you're at, those beacons are aimed to work it, and I know the beacon's been turned down or up.
Up.
It's
Just
been
a
turned
tad.
up to, you know.
It goes over the houses more, whereas
Yeah.
before it was a little bit lower, so it hit some of the houses.
Yeah.
And I did reach out and look up the FAA guidelines, and they are specific to the rotating beacon. Specifically because we are a general airport, there's additional guidance on it. So we are required by federal law to have them up and running. It didn't specifically say we could have them controlled any other way, but it did point out the safety issues that are brought with it. And it also brought out weather. So you would have to have a way to bypass any type of remote controlling to it so that they were on 24/7 for inclement weather. Otherwise you put your airport in a liability.
Yeah. Yeah.
When was the beacon raised? Was it after the complaint? The complaint was, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Oh, no, this was done way.
Oh,
before
this was
that.
done way before.
Way before.
Yeah, this was done like last year.
Towards the middle of the year.
So how long did it take us to get the beacon fixed?
Well, it took us a couple months to get it actually going back again. And
Yeah.
then I did get, when the pilots did, when it was fixed, you know, that, hey, we finally got our beacon back, you know.
Yeah, because it's been
DPS and.
pretty dull for a long, long time, for the decade or plus I've been here, then it finally, we have a real beacon.
Yeah.
So you can actually see it. So that's what I think the complaints are bubbling in. They did move it up. I can see why people are complaining about it, but it's an airport.
Right. Yeah, we don't want crashes.
Exactly.
You know, I don't want, I live right there close. I don't want a plane in my backyard.
You'd be adding that liability on.
Yeah, would, yeah. So,
Okay. We should be grateful we have an airport.
Yes.
yep.
Yeah, thank you for adding to this discussion.
And I
Councilmember
did-
Stevens.
One
you're
of the
one with
pilots
the-
did tell me, he goes, they would actually look for Marfa's beacon to find out.
That's what I used to
ours-
do.
when Ours was out.
Yeah, that's what I used to do.
But that it's actually brighter. Marfa's is brighter than ours.
Yeah, so there, I'll just tell you, flying in at night, there are two things I would look for. First, I'd look for the blimp that's out there.
The
between-
aerostat.
The aerostat, I'd look for it because there are 6 lights out there I would look for. Then I'd look for the Marfa beacon. And if I'm coming in on runway 1, I would look at the Holland or the
Hampton.
yes,
the Hampton Inn, because that's lined right up to be able to go down. When we got our beacon on, that resolved that issue.
DPS actually said that also.
Yeah.
They look for the motel.
Yeah, put it from motel,
Good.
so.
All right, any other
Scary.
comments?
Comes in.
Well, no, it's usually lined up.
You almost ran it in your house.
Keep the light on.
All right, Councilmember Stone.
Mayor, I might just add that this sounds like another thing, because we gotta do this and it got fixed. I'll be honest, I noticed somewhere half a year ago, a year, that I started seeing it at night and I never noticed it before. I was like, oh, that's
got
up
fixed.
there. But maybe this is another point that we can rise to this challenge of educating folks, because we didn't have it that well, and then now we are compliant. We're doing the safety measures we have to do. So there maybe is if it's a Facebook post or a little flyer in the mailers, whatever we're sending out to folks that are in North Ward 1. This might be a good, that might even be a little bit of North Ward 2 as well. Might be a good point to just look at educating some folks that this is the way it was, this is how it is now. It's the way it is, and we have an airport.
And we actually haven't received a complaint from the observatory that I have.
Yeah,
Oh, that's good.
So.
Yeah.
And like I said, CBP, I don't know if Megan had sent them. Did you send them a letter or an email when I sent those pictures?
For
The
the,
lights,
so it's actually part of the ongoing agreement that we're trying to
there
get.
you go,
Okay,
because they're the ones responsible for this.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Anything else? Okay,
Good.
okay, thank you, Abel. See, it wasn't so bad, was it? No bodily harm. All right, moving on to discussion item E, this is city manager.
So, thank you, Mayor. In your packets is the tentative September revenue and expense report. The reason why I say tentative is we are still accruing expenses. We will accrue for up to 90 days. That is our service bills, that is open POs on projects that may have been completed at the end of the fiscal year, that even though we beg vendors, don't get us those invoices, and so it takes a little bit of extra time. But just an overview, the general fund revenue collections reached 97.95% of the budgeted 5.9 million, with expenditures at 80.63%. Now, please take in mind, we still have expenses that are coming in. This is a solid performance, even though some expenses are still expected. Sorry, guys. Water, wastewater, sanitation, we're currently at 77.4%. And I know Counselor Stone, you made the comment wanting to be at 100%. I do want to point out that 1.5 million of that is the ARPA funds that is still sitting in reserves for the clarifier project. So we received funding, but we also received the expenses as well because of that project. The airport, every year, Abel is just neck and neck with his expenses and his revenues. He tends to break even. And we are very fortunate this year with the 90-10 airport improvement grant that we received. We did overspend on our expenses on the facility maintenance, but we recouped 90% of that back from the state, which allowed us to do that. So we're estimating about $56,000 coming back in revenue on that as well. The hotel, this would be the first year that we were slightly under our anticipated revenue expenses. But also take in mind, the budget included a little over 300,000 in reserves that we did not utilize. We did hold off on those expenses for the visitor center. It will be an item of discussion at one of our upcoming council meetings to discuss the direction of the visitor center. Currently, there's over 400,000 in capital improvements that the coordinator would like to take into consideration. And I really want council's input and direction because that's a lot of money for a small building. So I want to make sure whatever we do, we get the best return on the investment. The gas, as anticipated, we did collect less. We are having warmer winters, which is unfortunate for our gas department. But at the same time, he does keep his expenditures to a minimum in light of the fact that the revenue is not coming in. Our interest in sinking, as always, it exceeds expectations. We collected a little over 100%. And then our expenditures were 147,000. It's just our debt payments. So as we work through the next couple months, these numbers will slowly change. So I'm going to present the September one in November as well, so that you can see that difference. Because I know that Rick will always ask, are we underspending by 800,000? Are we underspending by 600,000?
You got it.
So
Thank
this will start to show that difference as we get all of those additional expenditures in. So hopefully the next month you'll see some difference on that. As always, it does provide that itemized breakdown. This report does include the budget amendments that were approved by council as well, as several line item adjustments are allowed based on our budget policy from the different departments. So budget perspective wise, we did make changes to allow for the increased expenses or decrease in expenses in each of the departments. I wasn't gonna go through all the numbers unless you wanted me to.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Martinez,
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Councilmember Escobedo,
I don't have any. She explained it very well.
Councilmember Stevens,
Well done, Megan.
Councilmember Nance.
Two questions. General fund, 97.95% of revenue. Do you think that 2.05% there, is that sales tax, a loss of sales tax over the year?
It's a loss of the sales tax, but it's also a decrease in a lot of our departments. So permit fees, animal control, everyone was slightly lower this year.
Okay, and 210,000 of that is about sales tax, lowering in sales tax, which we typically do about 2 million, you said?
Yes.
So just to reiterate the purpose of economic development and what we looked at.
Yeah.
The other one I was gonna mention was HOT being 64% revenue. So pretty dramatic drop.
It's really, so when you look at the HOT, you have to remember the actual, so what we had, it's compared to what we budgeted. So
Okay.
the budgeted compared to the actual comes up with the 63.45%. But remember that actual or the budget included the fund balance. So we were gonna use about 390,000 in fund balance. So if you remove that compared to our actual, it's actually, the percentage is a lot higher.
Okay, are we about what we were last year or no?
We're a little below. I didn't have to pick up the phone and call Chris to get money, marketing and spend it.
and everything else. All right. The only reason I was gonna say that is that I think Brewster County's went up. Every year theirs goes up and up and up. So just the worry that instead of putting heads in beds in Alpine, a lot of those travelers now have opportunity and options in South County. And so
Exactly.
we need to give them a reason to kind of stay here with some options here.
Yep.
More music?
Okay, Councilmember Stone?
A couple of quick things as well. I think you're right that there might be somewhere near a cap of hotels as far as seeing that and starting to work that in. Obviously, if we have a rollover or fund balance or whatever that is with HOT, we might have to start, being careful. We might have to look at that number a little bit more here. Especially with Big Ben's Chizo's closing down over the next year or so, that is also coming up in our near future to think about. Less folks, that'll hit the news all through Texas, and folks want to go to those mountains. And they won't necessarily be able to be up there. Only other thing I have to say is just to clarify, I'd love to hit 100% of a budget always, but that's not my intention. My intention, I don't know where the number is, 85, 90, 92%, whatever it is. I just know that, when folks see that we aren't nearing those numbers more reasonably, I guess, it's saying, why are we holding on to the money for another time? Or maybe we have good reason of saying we're saving this for something else as well. But just to note, I know you said more money's coming in on general fund. It's sitting around 80 right now, and if we wanted to get it closer to that 90 mark, we've got $500,000 that I'm really happy that we're going to be working with, hopefully giving increases to lower wage and middle management over the next few months and years. So looking forward to doing that with council too.
I also do want to point out on the street department, so they started their paving season a lot later. When we go out for RFPs, we went out twice.
Yeah.
So when we don't get a response, it pushes back our ability to do the job. So part of that is because we just didn't have the ability to pay. Not that we didn't really have the staffing, we just didn't have a contractor who we could buy the supplies.
Sure.
Councilmember Stevens?
Thanks very much, Mayor. To Darren's point, when will we start having the discussion on economic development? Because to the point he makes, the feedback I get talking to a lot of people, there are a lot more opportunities to go down south. So Alpine used to be a place to stop and branch out. Now it's a pass through. And so our economic development was going to be important. So when will we start having that discussion?
I have it on my calendar tentatively for the second meeting of November.
Thank you. Answer my question. Thanks.
I'll make one more short comment if I might.
Okay.
I got crazy ideas. We have beautiful hills and mountains around this area. Imagine being able to create some sort of space to where folks can get their outdoor recreation in this area rather than driving. All I hear from my Austin or Houston friends, I got to drive another 2 hours. So just pointing that out.
With the use of hot funds, what you're suggesting?
Perhaps of some, I don't think hot funds can be used for buying land as far as I can think of a park, but unless we could really gear that towards it's a destination place, I don't know.
I'll make a short comment on that because I don't want to diverge too far, but just I think a lot of local private property owners here, ranchers and everything, don't know that there is a liability law within the state of Texas that absolves them of a lot of liability if they do offer their land for recreational opportunities. It might make sense to bring somebody in, really not even from a council perspective, probably just start those conversations with local private, because there are options that the state of Texas realizes that there's not a lot of public land in our area. So they've created some legal avenues to kind of get around it.
That's why I've opened up 40 acres behind my house. I'm not worried about liability. We posted it. They're on their own. They can use that 40 acres, just no motor vehicles.
Which is a great bit here.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, and with that, we're closing discussion and information items, moving on to action items. The first action item belongs to Councilmember Stevens. If you would kindly read that, and then we'll look for a motion to discuss.
Certainly, this action item is to approve the second and final reading. In fact, I'm gonna make the motion to approve the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-10-01, an ordinance authorizing the vacation, abandonment, and sale of 205 square foot wide strip of West Brown Avenue right of way adjacent to the northwest line of Lot 8, Block 8, Hamilton addition to the city of Alpine. Authorizing the city manager to execute a deed without warranty to the applicant Lee Feng Ni, directing the funds from the sale of the city's interest to be deposited in the general fund for the purpose of street improvements, providing for terms and conditions of such thereof, providing for a severability clause, providing for an effective date, further authorize the city building inspector to issue a permanent variance to the city setback requirements regarding the property line to the West Brown Avenue right of way.
Okay, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so discussion. Also, we have Rob here. If there are any questions for him, building services. Councilmember Stevens, you want to begin the discussion?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. So this is the second reading of this ordinance for approval. As we talked about it, it's resolving an issue where a house is literally built on city property. And we've gone through all the issues and with the team to be able to go work, and hopefully we can get this approved tonight and they can move forward. Lots of work to be done by the city to implement, but this is council's authorization to sell that property.
Okay. Councilmember Escobedo.
I think we've discussed it extensively. Just need to move on.
Okay. Councilmember Stone.
This is the Carol Morrow.
Yeah, Carol's working, yeah. Yep.
Councilmember Martinez.
No questions.
Councilmember Nance.
No comments.
All right, let's vote.
Aye.
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 Okay, City Secretary, we have unanimously approved the second and final reading of ordinance 2024-10-01. Moving on to action item B, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Action item B is to approve resolution 2024-10-19. A resolution authorizing the city to participate in an agreement with the state of Texas to the Department of Transportation to request the closure of North Highway 118 between Holland and Avenue E on November 22nd to November 24th, 2024 for Art Walk.
I need a motion.
So moved as presented.
Okay, discussion, City Manager.
In order for the road to be closed, the city does have to give approval to TxDOT to close that road. We've done it every year for the past 31 years, 31 years, to allow the festivities of Art Walk.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Nance.
I'm gonna recuse myself as a member of the Art Walk Board.
Okay. City Secretary, Councilmember Nance is going to recuse himself from the vote because he's a member of the Art Walk Board. Okay, Councilmember Martinez.
I think it's okay. If you've been done many times, so I'm okay with this.
Okay. Councilmember Stevens.
I think it's the right thing to do. Brings money, brings tourism, and increase sales tax and heads and bits.
Councilmember Stone.
I thought this was the construction at first, and then I noticed what it really was. Happy to be supporting it.
Okay. All right, and Councilmember Escobedo.
I'll second him because that's what I thought at first, and I had to like read it. I'm like, what? Said wait, so I had to read it out loud. I was like, okay, I'm for it.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
Councilmember Nance has recused himself.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously approved with Councilmember Stone, Martinez, Escobedo, and Stevens voting in favor. And then as stated, Councilmember Nance recused himself. Moving on to action item C, this belongs to City Manager.
Approved resolution 2024-10-20. A resolution authorizing the city to participate in the Texas Department of Transportation Aviation Routine Airport Maintenance Program, RAMP grant. Program for financial assistance used solely and exclusively for the airport maintenance at the Alpine Dispersed Municipal Airport.
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve item C, resolution 2024-10-20.
Okay, I need a second. Okay, discussion, City Manager.
First, I do want to request forgiveness in advance here. I did submit this on behalf of the city. In trying to close out the fiscal year, I approved the grant without council approval. So just so you're aware, I do realize I made a mistake, immediately put it on the council agenda. We are very fortunate that this is the second year in a row that they are doing the 90-10, which means only 10% is required for the city's matching. This does cover the routine airport maintenance. Basically, it covers everything as long as it doesn't have wheels on it or it's fuel. So we utilize this to help the airport, obviously with some of the revenue, but also the expenses.
Great. Councilmember Escobedo.
Thank you for bringing it back up. It's good when you can recognize your own mistakes and
Yes.
and bring it up. I like that. Thank you.
Councilmember Martinez.
So because you decide without our approval, you own us a dinner.
I second that.
All of us.
I vote in favor. Councilmember Nance.
Comments.
Councilmember Stone. Councilmember Stevens.
So the only question I have is for the $111,111.11. That's the total amount. What projects are you thinking about?
So one, the beacon, if we wanted to look into it more, we do have some additional repairs that need to be made of the cracks that we wanted to look at. Some of the lighting that we wanted to address,
I'm checking on the part.
Oh, excellent, boy, let me tell you, we need to work that one.
as long as it's not the fuel,
Yeah.
The other
card
side of
reader.
it.
Yeah, but it only took me 4 times to get through the last time.
this board.
Let's go.
So imagine putting your credit card in at a retail operation to buy $400 or $500 worth of gas.
Uh-huh.
So it's frustrating, yeah.
So Able does have a short list currently.
Yeah, okay, very good.
One of the things we really need out there is the fuel truck, but that is not covered.
That's
by
not
this.
covered that. Yeah. Card reader would be great, thank you.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council unanimously approved resolution 2024-10-20. Moving on to action item D, City Manager.
Approved resolution 2024-10-21, a resolution authorizing the transfer of designated fire vehicles to Brewster County, Texas, as outlined under the interlocal agreement regarding firefighting and fire protection services and the Alpine Emergency Services Board.
I need a motion. I need a second. City Manager.
Over the past year, they've been trying to get the vehicles all situated. When council first approved this item back in August of last year, 23, we transferred all the vehicles. And reviewing all the vehicles, they found 3 additional vehicles that we did not transfer to them. Because I requested this to be done by resolution for 1, transparency, and 2, for audit purposes, I'm bringing it back before council to be able to transfer the remaining vehicles. And this way I can fill out the paperwork to have the titles presented to us as well.
Councilmember Martinez.
That's good. They need it. So I'm gonna agree with this one.
Councilmember Stone.
Nothing.
Councilmember Escobedo.
I'm in agreement with it.
Councilmember Stevens. Councilmember Nance.
No comments.
Okay, let's vote.
Aye.
City Secretary, Council voted to unanimously approve resolution 2024-10-21. And that concludes action items and begins executive reports.
Moment, did we have the sign thing come up or did we miss that opportunity?
I emailed you, it wasn't on the agenda. so we
Okay,
had this-
no worries. Thank you.
Okay, so executive reports, City Secretary, 6 minutes on the clock. City Mayor report. I want to point out that we have something very important coming up on the election. And election starts on Monday, early voting, 10/21. Mail out ballots have already gone out, so those voters have already voted. As we all know, the propositions on the ballot have to be written in that legal language from the state, which is very confusing. So I've heard a lot of feedback from community members who said that they don't understand this and that they were thinking about voting no for everything because they don't understand any of it. Which, as we know, our charter hasn't been updated since 2005, and then it will remain that it's not updated because all of those failed to pass. So we need to talk to our constituents, whatever that might be, emails, Facebook posts, however you reach your ward members. It's very important that you do that. Now, on the city website, we have a phenomenal explanation of each of these amendments, these propositions that we can't put on here. We can't put regular language on the ballot. But on this, for example, for Proposition A, who did this? Gio, well done.
Thank you.
It says, the current city charter does not provide a set length of time for the charter to be reviewed. If approved, Proposition A would implement a requirement that the city review the charter at least every 5 years to keep it in compliance with updates to state and federal laws. So it explains something that is written very complicated, especially when you get to the annexation. There were a lot of people confused about that. So Proposition B reads that, okay, shall Article 2, powers of the city, Section 2.03, alteration and extension of boundaries of the Alpine, Texas City Charter be amended to disallow involuntary annexation by removing Section B by action of the city council with or without the consent of the inhabitants or owners of the territory to be annexed. So one person I met with thought that it was saying that we could do that. They were confused. Whereas Gio's explanation on the city website that you can print out and you can hand it out too, is when the current city charter was last amended, cities had the ability to annex land without permission of the property owner. In 2019, House Bill 347 removed the city's ability to unilaterally annex land without the consent of the property owner, except under specific circumstances. If approved, Proposition B would update the city charter to remove the provision that states that the city may annex land without property's owner's permission. That is understandable. You can understand what it's saying there. I just don't know that the residents know to go to the city website to look for this, to have the understanding of what each of these propositions are. Gio did an excellent job. I went through every one of them, and what he wrote as far as what each of these are is wonderful. It's very understandable. And so that's my executive report. We need to do some education. I'm going to make a video, post it on Facebook, but whatever you need to do to talk to your constituents, however that might be, please do it.
So where do we point people to?
Okay, so
Because I'm on the city website right now.
If you refresh, I just moved it to the first page because it was kind of.
Okay, so that's helpful.
Yeah, I think I
it's,
searched it. That's how I got it. There's a search bar at the bottom, but it being on the first page is
Yeah, I mean,
better.
because most people are not gonna do it.
cityofalpine.com/charter amendment.
Yeah, but people aren't gonna do that. They're just gonna go City of Alpine.
It's also been in the paper. Pointing them specifically to the website, encouraging them.
Has this been in the paper? What Gio's explanations?
We have not put all of that in the paper. I'm also trying to time it where we don't give it all at the beginning and then they forget by the time. It was gonna be in the paper for next week.
Okay, can we put his explanations in here? Because I mean, they are tremendously helpful.
60 to 70% of people will vote before November 5th. We'll be lucky if we catch even 30% of voters, and that's a statewide average, but just noting that.
And the other thing I wanted to point out is we have called a special town hall for October 23rd at 5:30 PM here in City Council Chambers. Civic Center, in the Civic Center. So if you can let your residents know if they can come, and bless you, it's a town hall, so it's not a formal meeting.
So how is that? Because the first I heard about it was tonight when you mentioned it.
Yes, we
So-
just called it today.
So what time is it?
5:30,
And you said where?
Civic
Oh,
Center,
it's a
because there's a
Civic-
meeting in here.
October 28th.
23rd, next Wednesday, so not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow.
Okay, so.
And I know that the Republican chair has reached out and they're gonna
Tomorrow.
give some information as well.
Yeah, they've asked that we come and speak. Maybe the Democratic chair can do the same. I don't know.
I thought it
But
was
the-
because of election, because I'm working an election day, so I thought it was for those who were working, it was for everybody
What for the,
tomorrow.
oh, yes, Monica McBride reached out to me and said that they were going over the propositions. Did I want to attend? That's what that's for. And I'm hoping Mary Bell would do the same.
Yeah.
So. Okay, thanks.
Okay, all right. So that concludes my executive report. We're moving on to the city manager report.
I'm not gonna provide an update on water. We did have an hour conversation on it. On the wastewater, we do have our pre-construction meeting tomorrow, at 1 p.m. We will sign and finalize all of the contracts, with Dowtech, and then the contract has them starting effective, November 1st. The contract is 365 days, so they have a year from start to finish to get everything, the drying beds updated, and then that one clarifier. We anticipate that this will be done mostly during the summer months. Right now, they'll get everything fabricated that needs to be fabricated, and then we'll move forward. So tomorrow's discussion is really to outline what the contract says, including that if you don't meet the deadlines, that there are penalties for each day you go over. So that we wanted to make clear. On the employee compensation, I did reach out to Evergreen, right before I left. We had a quick discussion. She made some updates. I do have it tentatively set for them to present November 5th in executive, with moving that to the beginning of the meeting, hopefully for time sensitivity, so that they can do a presentation. She is sending me, if she hasn't already, I'm catching up on emails from being out, a draft copy of the report to provide the council.
All right, Councilmember Stevens?
Streets, I know you.
Oh, I skipped that.
Yeah.
I
Oh.
gave Eddie, so at the last council or at his presentation, when he did his workshop. You guys requested some specific information, including the update of the KSA street study as well as this year's tentative schedule. I asked him to provide that to me by 10/23. So I wanted to give him time to look at that study, as well as determine what streets he want and the priority in which the streets were gonna be paved. I did send out a reminder at 10/23.
Okay.
So that's the deadline for him to submit that.
And I shot Megan a note on that because the latest data for streets is 2022.
Yeah, so that's the other side for the paving information, and I have requested that someone did that,
Thank you.
not me.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on water, wastewater, streets, employee compensation for Megan?
When are we doing employee compensation? Do I need to bring it up on a executive session, or do we have a good date now?
So I've tentatively asked them to present November 5th.
Okay.
It will be under executive, and then I'm asking that someone from council move it to the beginning of the meeting, only because of time sensitivity.
Sure.
Obviously, they're not here. If they need to be here, we'll have to schedule it for another meeting, but they're gonna give you a rough estimate. And date and kind of breakdown of everything they found. And then we'll go from there.
So executive session will be at the beginning of the meeting if approved.
If approved, I'd like the time sensitivity to move it up.
I think it's a simple request for
Yes.
time sensitivity, so, okay. All right, anything else?
Did I just say that the compensation is gonna be on the 5th and not the 19th?
So tentatively the 5th. Like I said, I'm still catching up on the lovely array of emails I received while I was out. So I'm hoping that there's one in there, where she's responded.
Did you have a good vacation? Or
Wasn't vacation.
staycation?
It was the tea and the.
It was business.
It was business
Gotcha.
until 9 o'clock most nights.
Okay, and with that, I'm closing executive reports, going on council member comments, Councilmember Stevens, 1 minute on the clock, city secretary for each member.
Done.
Done? Councilmember Escobedo? Councilmember Nance?
I don't usually say much, but we had a CAD meeting today, and I just want to thank the CAD employees. I think we've got a really good team in there. So I just want to tell them thank you and thank you for the work that put into it.
Good. Councilmember Martinez?
I don't have comments. I do have a question about the workshop for planning and zoning. So is that going to be announced or it's already the workshop for the planning and zoning?
Cause y'all had talked about them.
So we haven't set up the workshop. We're gonna wait till after this next meeting. Ideally, it would be the second meeting in November.
Okay.
Is that for the zoning map?
So one of the things that was requested, and like I said, it was end of fiscal year. It did not slip my to-do list. It just got moved to the end of it.
Some reason I had it that it was for that last Monday of this month.
So the planning and zoning meeting is the
Oh.
last Monday of this month.
But it's not
In
that.
conversation, we talked about prioritization and things we had done and not done. And I need to resend that list back out to council. The timing was just off on my list, and so unfortunately, end of year, new year, and then being out of town, it slipped down. The mayor did send me an email to remind me to send that out. After planning and zoning meets, then you guys and have that conversation about priorities, then we'll have the workshop. So it could be the second meeting of November.
Okay, because I have the Family Crisis Center meetings on that Monday, so I was,
Oh, no, you're good.
okay, thank you.
Councilmember Stone?
Couple quick things, y'all know I love wearing different hats, so when we talk about our amendments. We want to make sure that we're putting campaign hats on when we're doing that outside of this room, and we're educators when we're inside this room. And that's the different hat that you wear like that. If you're asking someone to vote for or against something, you are in your campaign suit. Other than that, I've spoken, being an educator here, I've spoken with Republican Party and Democrat members, and there's a big confusion going around Spanish speaking in the polls. And I hope, Eva, you'll be able to speak to many folks about this as well, is you can come in and speak Spanish as you're coming in and request a ballot in Spanish. We're working to make sure that there's a Spanish speaker poll worker at every early election. It is difficult to do that, so we're working our hardest to do that. But at the same time, if there is someone speaking to you in Spanish from a poll worker side, someone else can ask for that to be translated. So we just want to make sure and not turn away anyone voting that you can come in and speak Spanish. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. All right, and with that, councilmember comments have concluded. We are moving to item number 13, executive session. Pursuant to chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code, the city council reserves the right to convene into executive session from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting for any posted agenda item or to receive advice from the attorney as permitted by law. Tonight, the city council will recess into executive session pursuant to section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code to discuss Customs and Border Patrol Border Protection Hangar lease renewal, to discuss the possible sale and or acquisition of property for long-term overall city goals and planning, including city-owned structures. May I have a motion?
So move the executive session.
May I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Let's vote.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
City Secretary Council unanimously voted to move into executive session at 7:54 PM this evening.
Thank
Here.
Uh-oh, you got locked in here.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Your company is my present.
Okay, so this brings us to a motion to move into executive session. I mean, to move into open session.
I move we're moving, oh,
Move into open.
open session, that's what I thought it was gonna say, yeah.
Okay, I need a second. to move- Okay, any discussion to move into open session? All right, let's vote.
Aye.
Aye.
City Secretary, council voted unanimously to move into open session at 8:33 PM. Okay, and this brings us to a motion for action or no action.
Mayor, I move that we take no action from executive session.
I need a second. All right, any discussion? Let's vote to take no action.
Aye.
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 City Secretary, council voted to take no action based on the executive session. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks.
Woo-hoo! So what time is it?
Oh, wow.
It's 8:33. Who said 8:30?